What's up, everybody? Just finished watching the Manchester United versus Aston Villa game that happened today at Villa Park. Another pretty disappointing game. Obviously, Manchester United lost 2-1, which we never want to see. Obviously, we know that we're missing some key players with Ahmad and with Brian Membu out and with Mazrari not present. But I think today was really just, and obviously, we had a big loss in Bruno Fernandes getting injured at the end of the first half, being subbed out. But I think, today really highlights kind of the epitome of what we've been seeing like week after week, despite having a week to prepare for games, despite having, only one game a week, despite, I don't know, all of these interviews in which our manager is saying all the right things and such. Like, we're just still not seeing the clear progression. We're not seeing like progress in the way that we're playing. Like, yes, you can say that the possession stat is a slight improvement of maybe like the previous manager, but possession versus like wins and like exciting football, like I don't know if it's the right trade-off. I just think at points in the game, we're just so methodical in our build-up, we're so methodical in our approach to go towards goal, and then you see like the frustration from players like Bruno Fernandes and like Cunha, who are almost doing like double the amount of work that they probably should be doing in order to try and keep up with the demand that's necessary of trying to make everything happen around them. Cunha's, picking up the ball in places, having to run 20, 30 yards, take on multiple people every time he picks up the ball because there's just no one around him. There's no one that he can play quick combinations with and like move forward up the pitch with the ball. Because the way that we play doesn't allow for that. So our attacking players, key attacking players like that, are having to drop deep into the midfield to then try and get the ball off of our center backs before they either hit it long or go wide. In order to try and make something happen in the midfield. But overall, it's pretty clear that the system tries to bypass the midfield. And by bypassing the midfield, we're actually not utilizing a lot of our players' key strengths, especially players like Bruno Fernandes, who needs to be, closer to the goal and needs to have like those creative players around him near the goal at the end of the day, because that's really what United is lacking. And then on the flip side of that, on the defensive side, United has only kept one clean sheet this entire season. Like, at some point there has to be a reckoning, there has to be an acknowledgement from Amorim, from the club. Hey, this is not working. We play with five defenders week in and week out. And despite that, we're still unable to stop leaking goals. We're still leaking so many goals and have not held more than a single clean sheet in the entire Premier League. It's just, quite frankly, not good enough, especially when you're playing a system which defensively utilizes five defenders. How are you still leaking goals when we are supposed to be defending with five defenders back? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And then, I'm not sure if Amorim sets like a cross quota or something before matches, but some of the crosses that we're seeing get set up from Dallo and from Dorgu, there were a couple times where Dallo's cross went all the way to Dorgu and Dorgu's cross went all the way to Dallo. It's just like, do we have a quota of crosses that we're trying to meet, or are we actually trying to find our player in the box so that we can try and actually finish the opportunity and score a goal? Because I still think, even in the chances we created today, it was a lot of half chances. Yes, the goal came off of like great pressure from Dorgu and a great finish from Cunha. Like, there's definitely no discrediting the high press. That does work sometimes when teams don't play out of it. So yes, sometimes we do catch a team and we'll score like that. But I think for the majority of the game, it's pretty obvious that Aston Villa was very comfortable with the way we played. They were fine dropping into their defensive shape, letting us pass the ball amongst our back three, and then, going wide to Dallo, going wide to Dorgu. They weren't really too concerned about our build-up play. We weren't forcing them out of position. We weren't making Aston Villa uncomfortable, which is why they were so calm without the ball. Because at the end of the day, they knew that they didn't want to have most of possession. They just wanted the win, and that's what they got. And I think that is maybe a little bit of what Amorim is missing with this. It's like he's sticking with his system sticking with his system to a fault, almost as if he's trying to like prove a point to someone, or prove a point to the fans who have criticized him, or prove a point to the media that's criticized him. But at the end of the day, it's not working. And your sole job as the Manchester United manager is to win footballing matches. So it shouldn't matter what it takes to win the game. What should matter is that we win the game. And I think that today, at least, I will give credit where credit is due. At least we finally got to see more of the youth players brought into the game. I know it's through desperation because we're missing players through the AFCON. So I know this wasn't something that Amorim willingly did. He had to do it. He had to do it because we quite literally did not have the numbers on the bench to make up, to have more players. So we essentially forced his hand, and we finally saw youth players break through and get some debuts. So great to see one of the Fletcher boys make his debut. Great to finally see Shea Lacey break through and get his debut. And yeah, hopefully, these sorts of players should have already been utilized throughout the season, but hopefully now we'll start to see more and more of this sort of utilization, because again, that's one of the first pillars of Manchester United, the youth, right? Youth is that first pillar in the three pillar saying, the youth, courage, success. So believing in the youth, trusting Carrington is the first part, and we finally saw that. But again, it happened so late in the game. It happened so I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much of a chance of success or chance of real impact any of the youth players were really given in today's game. Obviously, if Shea Lacey hits that shot upper bins, we'd all be celebrating the point and celebrating his debut like crazy. So I don't know. Maybe it does just come down to small opportunities like that. But I think, again, overall, the football is not exciting. It's not inspiring. It's not fun to watch. It's just very back and forth. It's very methodical, very, very anti Manchester United if you've been watching the club for a long time. And so it's just hard to get behind a team that's playing like this. And, we have a manager that loves to do his chatting, loves to do his conversations when it comes to the media, and have his opinions, and wants to call players out and call the youth system out and make all of these strong statements and say the right thing. But when do we start seeing the results, Amarim? Where do we start seeing the results? I've had enough of seeing these interviews, had enough of seeing these talk pieces, had enough of the PR. We need to see results. You're playing one game a week. You've got a week to prepare for these matches. And what we've seen so far is not good enough. We have not seen clear improvement or clear indication that anything is getting better. The results are still not there. Sixth place is not good enough for a Manchester United team that is playing one game a week. Do not let the standards fall down to Amorim's level. We cannot accept this level of performance, especially for a manager that wants to be as vocal and as loud in the media as he is. He loves to call players out. He loves to call things out. Well, we're calling you out, Amorim. What we're seeing week in and week out is not good enough, and it starts with you. The formations that you make, the substitutions that you make. When Bruno Fernandes gets injured today, instead of bringing on Xerxes and risking and bringing on an attacking player, we bring on a defender. How does that make any sense? Why would a defender be this first substitution that we make? It literally, it has no opportunity to allow us to progress in a game when we're making defensive substitutions instead of attacking ones. In a moment, we've lost our best attacking player in Bruno Fernandes, and we bring on a center back in his place. Does that make any sense? No. No, absolutely not. And that's not to discredit Lisandro Martinez, because when he came on, he did fine. But to go from Bruno Fernandes to a center back, it is a very big difference. So what could have been done was we bring on an attacking player in Xerxes, or even one of those youth players at that point, to really give them a full half to have a real opportunity at it. So yeah, I think overall, resoundingly just not good enough, resoundingly not the result that we want going into the holidays, going into Christmas, not the result that we want to bring in the new year. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this Manchester United team has left a lot to be desired, and I don't think that it is fully on the players. And the reason I say that is because if the players were being set up for success, if they were being put in their best positions, if they were being put in places in which they could excel, in which they could combine with each other, in which they were allowed to be the freedom, have the freedom to create and be creative players, we would probably see a completely different Manchester United team. Cunha is a good player. He is a good player, but we don't get to see him at his height because of the system that we play in. We know that Bruno Fernandes is a club legend, will be a Premier League legend, will be a Manchester United legend. He is not a defensive midfielder. He is being played in his worst position right now. And it is showing week in and week out. When was the last time you saw Bruno Fernandes get injured? We've almost literally never seen it. He's been subbed off of maybe 3 games in the 7 years he's been at the club now. And look at this, a hamstring injury. Why do we think that is? It's because Bruno is pinging balls from the top of our own 18-yard box, trying to find these crafty balls that he'd usually be hitting from midfield. That is the difference. He is too far away from the goal to truly create for United anymore. And that is what we are seeing the result of. We're seeing the result of that because we're not creating good chances. We're not creating big chances. We are creating half chances and having shots from distance, which are okay. I will never complain about shots from distance or shots on target, but do they really exemplify a clear team built opportunity on goal? Absolutely not. And that is the difference. Yes, if Cunha's shot from 35 yards out goes in, we'd all be celebrating. But the reality is he did that because there was no one around him to pass to. He had no one to combine with. So he looked around and said, I literally only have one option: shoot. And that's what he did. So we don't want desperation shots. We want shots with intention and purposeful shots and purposeful crosses, trying to find players in the box. And that's just not what we're seeing. So at the end of the day, it's another loss, another wasted opportunity to beat a good team, and to show up in the Premier League. And yeah, I think, these opportunities are continuing to slip by, week by week. And at the end of the day, not achieving top four is an absolute critical failure for Amorim if he does not achieve top four. Top four is the bare minimum in which Manchester United should be achieving this year, playing once a week with a week in to prepare, with 300 million euros spent already this season. Amorim should be achieving top four. This Man United team is capable of achieving top four easily if they were being played to their strength. So yeah, so that's really all. Those are my thoughts on Manchester United's 2-1 loss at Aston Villa. Another disappointing result, more lackluster football. And yeah, I guess we'll just see what happens in the next one. I'll say it for as long as I have to. Amorim out. I don't think he understands the club. I will say at least he played some youth players today. That was definitely a positive step. But I think overall, we really need to start looking at making that change and cutting our losses before it's too late, so that we can salvage what's left of our season and actually achieve top four. Because not getting into Europe, not getting into Champions League is an absolute joke. If that happens again, we have to riot at Old Trafford because it's just unacceptable. The standards have fallen immensely. We've had managers sacked for less in the past. So we'll just see what happens. See what smart Alec responses Amorim will pass in the media today, and see if he'll blame it on the weather or blame it on the ball or blame it on the post or whatever he'll blame it on. But the reality is the football was very uninspired and just quite frankly not good enough. So those are my thoughts on Manchester United's 2-1 loss at Aston Villa, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Peace.